All right, great. You guys fired up? I'm really excited about this meet. This is the first time we've been to the Sheraton 4 Points, and it was standing room only in the back. It was packed out. Good for you guys. This meeting is for you guys. It's not for us. We have a fun time presenting and everything, but presenting is work. Someone else could do it for me. I'd rather have someone else do it. We do it because we want you guys to grow. We want you guys to have the opportunity that we had. When we first got in business, there was people coming from Texas that were presenting this opportunity every week, and we want to provide that same opportunity for you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this today. Hopefully you guys use this meeting next week. Because the whole business is very simple. The whole business is, it's like you have a week from this Tuesday and next Tuesday to how many people you can plug into the meeting next week. If each of you brought one person next week, this meeting would have 120 people and they wouldn't even be able to fit in the door. And could you imagine how much money everybody would be making? It's a phenomenal concept. A lot of people get in business and they wonder, will this business work for me? Will this business work for me? And that's the biggest question you'll ever get. People won't necessarily tell you directly. They'll go, I don't know if I have enough time. I don't know if... I don't know, what excuses do you guys hear? That's usually, I don't know if I have enough time, I'm doing this, I'm in the volleyball league, I have a wife, I don't know, whatever. You hear a lot of excuses from people in general, and what you find is they'll give you an excuse, but what their excuse isn't really what they mean. Usually if you ask them, if you go, hey, if you had more time, is there anything else holding you back? And what people usually do is when you ask people a question like that, the real answer usually comes after that. They go, well, I don't actually have the $300, or I don't know if I can do this business. People will usually tell you the real reason they don't want to do it right afterwards. And I can't tell you, 99% of the time what we see is people don't actually believe they can build a business. People go, hey, $300 isn't anything for me, but I don't know if I can find people to do this for you. And when Sam and I got in business, nothing magical happened. We didn't just talk to a couple people and all of a sudden our business just blew up. It didn't, Sam's parents did very well, but they were probably the 9th, 12th person we sponsored. It didn't just happen overnight. What we did was we started a process where we said, hey, if let's say we call 30 people, right? 30 people, we go, hey, listen, I found a great business opportunity, I want to run it by you, when can we sit down? And let's say 15 people are very excited about, want to sit down with you. You sit down with 15 people and you show them a quick overview, or you explain to them what's going on, and you invite them to a meeting, or let's say you just invite them to a meeting over the phone. Usually we find that about 8 to 10 of those 15 are going to show up to the meeting. And usually half the people that show up to the meeting get started. So we figured if we talked to 20 to 30 people about this business, we were going to sponsor 4 to 8 people in this thing. And we just figured out that if we just work this thing, we're not special. We're not just magically going to find sponsor 3 people that are going to all put 10,000 people in each. It doesn't work like that. It's not special for anybody. But Tony and Ron just talked to a handful of people, and they kept talking to people, and they got people that said no to them, and it didn't discourage them. They said, hey, they're not saying no to me. They're saying no to the business. And you got to get that straight in your heads that no one's rejecting you when they don't want to do this business. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their ability to believe that they can make this work. When people say no to you, they're not actually rejecting you. They're actually telling themselves that they can't. They don't see themselves being able to succeed in this business. And when people say that to you, you should walk out of a meeting happier when people don't get started than when they do. Because that's the reason you're going to make a lot of money, is because those people don't believe in themselves enough to just get started and even give this a shot. Where you're not like giving a shot, you're building this, you're showing this to people. And if those people aren't doing anything for the most part to propel their future, and you guys are doing something. And Sam and I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight about just getting in the habit of doing work. I guess it's called doing work. I don't even look at this business like it's work, because it's really just talking to people, and we have a good time, and we all go to dinner, and we have barbecues, and these guys will come over and we'll hang out. And this business is a lot of fun for us. But there's a lot of times in the beginning where it wasn't fun for us, because we were just, we had a list of 20 people that we wrote down, and we just start calling them and making phone calls or sending text messages. And there's a process where you have to take an hour or two and do a little bit of work. And we don't want to discourage you that, hey, what's an hour of work if it doesn't turn out to the business you want to turn out? You can put 1 more hour in. And we found that if we didn't book an appointment today, hey, there's another day tomorrow. We can always book an appointment tomorrow. And this business doesn't end based on whether 10 people want to, the 5 people that are closest to you want to do this or not, the 10 people that are closest to you don't want to do this. Our best friend didn't want to do this business with us, and to this day still isn't in business with us. But Ron and Tony wanted to do this business. I barely even knew those guys. I've been to their car dealership once. Sam knew them. He bought a car from them, and hung out with them a handful of times. We barely even knew these guys. Who would have known they would have been our biggest team? Not our biggest team, our second biggest team. You guys got... I'm working on that, right?
You change yourself.
But I was at, I rode for Lehigh, road crew, and for those of you that know, it's like a boat, and you're like rowing the boat, and it was like probably the worst sport I've ever done. It was like I can't tell you, like it's just it's all like legs. Everyone thinks it's like rowing is your arms, but the seat is actually on wheels, so you lean over and with the oar, and it like collapses your lungs. And so every time you lean forward, it's very hard to breathe, and you're already breathing real heavy, and then you're like collapsing your lungs, and you get really like a sick feeling in your stomach. Every time I remember thinking about crew in college, all I think about is how many times I threw up trying just because it was so painful. And I'll never forget it because like every season before we before competition, we had a training season, like a winter training season, where we'd go to Florida and we'd row where it's really warm because you couldn't row in the Mateja River if there's ice flowing down the river. And I'm so thankful for it today because our coach really recognized that, hey, this is a painful process. He said, but no matter what you go through right now, when you're in pain, you're on the water and you're rowing for hours at a time, you got blisters all over your hands, where my calves used to hit the boat, I used to bleed across the calves of my legs from where I connected the boat, and I'd wrap it with like wrap, and it wouldn't matter. It took me 4 years after I stopped rowing for the hair to grow back on my calves because it scraped it all the way in the boat. And it's just weird, you just remember all these painful memories, but there was no amount of pain you would go through that could take away that feeling when you crossed the finish line before the other person and you won that race. When you stood up in a line and they put a gold medal around your neck, like you don't even remember the pain. You don't even remember the things you went through, the things you did. And I can't tell you guys enough that you guys will not remember the phone calls you make and the plans you show and the conversations you have on the phone. A year from now, you won't remember. I don't even remember how the plan got shown to Tony. Actually, I don't even think I was there. I think Sam did it. I don't remember showing the plan to your parents. I don't remember. Fred Dodds is one of our biggest legs today. He's got like 50 people on his team, and he's actually building a computer company right now. I don't even remember how we showed him the plan. I just know he's in my group. Like I remember talking to him, but I don't remember what we drew out. I don't remember if I showed him a PowerPoint or if I drew it on a piece of paper. You won't remember the work after you get the results. So no matter what it takes now, it doesn't matter. It's worth it in the long run. And I heard a story when we were starting our crew season. It was my sophomore year, and we were going into winter training. And my coach told me a story, and I'll never forget it because it was the best story I've ever heard in my life. It was the best lesson I ever learned when I started building this business. He started talking about Lance Armstrong, and everyone knows Lance Armstrong as this like superhero. I mean, this guy had testicular cancer, and he won like 7 gold Olympic medals, whatever they call that Tour de France thing. But he's a super athlete. He's got his own clothing line now. He's a superstar in America. He's literally an icon to cancer patients everywhere. And no one sees the part where he was training and where he was trying to move up the ranks. Everyone sees him now with the gold medals on his neck. No one sees him when he was throwing up after every race because he was going through chemotherapy. Everyone sees the part where he's winning the Tour de France. He's on TV with his hand in the air. And my coach went through this story where he was talking about a race with a guy named Santiago Mateja. He was a guy who were in Colombia. He was actually one of the top cyclists in all of Colombia, and he actually wrote in a journal and submitted the journal to a newspaper later about Lance Armstrong when he first raced against Lance. And it was one of the most inspirational stories I ever heard. He was saying that he was working up one of the hills, and seeing Colombia has a lot of mountains, and he was training in the mountains for years. And he thought that he had an advantage over everyone else that was coming in because he was training in the mountains where the air is really thin, so his lungs were naturally bigger. He thought he had like a home field advantage. You know, when Denver plays people, everyone goes, oh, they have a home field advantage because they're 5,000 feet and the air is thinner. It's the same way in Colorado, Colombia. And this guy Santiago was climbing up the second to the last real big hill in this race, and it was the race right before the Tour de France. And there was 2 people ahead of him. He was in 3rd place, and he was going up this second to last hill, and he was trying so hard not to use all his energy because the hill was so steep. He said he stopped pedaling for a second, he would have started to roll backwards. And he you know how like when you're biking, you start to stand up on your bike when you're trying to get that extra force in? He was standing on his bike the whole last third of the race because it was so steep and it was so lengthy. And he was racing up this mountain, and he was thinking in his head, he said, there's 2 people in front of me. There's a Swiss and there's another guy who's from my hometown. He's like, these are great athletes, but I'm going to be in the top 3. We need to be in the top 3 to advance. So he was in 3rd place, and he said, the last time I heard about this gringo, Lance Armstrong, everyone talked him up like he was the man, like he was going to really take this race to the top, like he was going to beat everybody. And he said, he's about 5 minutes behind me last time I got a radio into my helmet from my coach. He said, he's 5 minutes behind me. He's like, I have him. See, I trained in the mountains. I trained in the toughest conditions in the whole world. And he said, he's like, I got this. And he was working up the hill. And all of a sudden, he got a radio in his helmet that said, we can no longer see the gringo anymore. He's coming up on you. And he started thinking, he was like, maybe he's giving a last push. Maybe he's trying to put some pressure on me. And Santiago was just going up this hill and going up this hill. And before you know it, you could hear the clinging of the chain on his bike behind him. And he said, "Oh," he's like, "There's no way. He must be giving it all right now. I'll beat him on the next hill because he's expending all his energy right now." And within seconds, Lance Armstrong was right next to him, and he was seated on the seat while Santiago was standing on his pedals. And he said he looked next to him, and all he saw from Lance was a smile. He just sat there and just smiled at him. He said it was almost like time stood still for like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then all of a sudden he just kept moving like it was effortlessly, like he was going downhill. And Santiago said, he said, at first I wanted to say I worked harder than him, I could still beat him. At first I wanted to say that he's just trying to put pressure on me, he's trying to intimidate me. And then he said, but that smile told him everything. He said the smile told him what the lips didn't. And he said, what the smile told me was, I was training while you were sleeping. What that smile told me was, Santiago, while you were picking your bike frame out, I was racing and I was training. When it was raining at night and you were sleeping next to your wife in the comfort of your home, I was out in the rain training. And he said, I had won this race 4 years ago before it had even begun. And now there's nothing you can do about it. I will see you in France. And Lance Armstrong went right by him, right by the other cyclists, and he won first place. And Santiago submitted his memoir to the paper, and he said, I learned a great lesson from that gringo this day. The label in the newspaper said, the lesson that the gringo taught me. And it taught him that there's nothing that hard work, nothing that can replace hard work. There's something about hard work that replaces talent. It doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're the most talented athlete in the world, you cannot beat the athlete who's been training day and night before you. If you're in this business, it doesn't matter how good you show this business plan, you cannot beat the person that shows it more than you. Does that make sense, you guys? Every day, if you guys may not think you're as good as Preston Swaggerty or as a Logan Stout or as a Sam Playo. It doesn't matter. If you show the business plan more than him, you'll succeed more than him. And the whole idea is you're in complete control of this business, and you're not in control, and no one else can dictate your financial future in this thing. No one can dictate how much money you make or how little money you can make. You dictate it on a daily basis, and it starts with those training things that most people don't like to do. It starts with sitting down and jogging your mind and creating a list of people that you know and going, hey, these are the people I can call. Hey, I haven't seen this guy since high school. I haven't seen this guy since middle school, but if I called him, he would know who I am. Let me write him down. I'll find his number later. I'll look him up on Facebook. I'll try to find it. There's nothing that can replace that when you're sitting there and you're like, I really don't want to talk to that person. I was never friends with that person. And you give them a call and go, hey, listen, I know we weren't best of friends. I'm looking for people from the area, expanding a business opportunity. I don't know what you're up to these days, but I remember you being a real popular person. Hey, do you know a lot of people? There's nothing that can replace doing that with people. And it's the hard work that you guys are doing now that's going to show when Jersey opens. It's going to show when New York opens. And we keep talking about this expansion. To be honest with you, I want the expansion to wait as long as possible because I think there's so much growth in Pennsylvania that can happen. I literally believe we can break hundreds of EDs in Pennsylvania, in PPL and PICO territory. I don't even want Jersey to open yet, but it's probably going to, and whoever works really hard right now is going to reap that benefit. Don't think that just because you're not an executive director, you're not a managing director, or maybe because your 5 best friends didn't want to do this, don't think that that's going to stop you from succeeding in this. It's whoever works the hardest is going to succeed in this thing. Thank you. I'm going to bring up Sam.
Good man.